Hello there! This is Honda's 2024 X-ADV, and in Holland here it costs 15,000 euros, making it the most expensive scooter you can buy right now. And in this video I want to answer the question if just a scooter can be worth that much money. I just want to touch on all the things I don't like about the X-ADV first, and then we'll go for a ride. Hopefully this weather dries out, and then I'll tell you all the good things, because there are a lot. So yeah, let's get into it. First off, the most important thing I think with many bikes is the way they sound. And I'm sad to say this X-ADV sounds pretty meh. So in the lower RPMs and when you just start it up, it does have a nice basic rumble to it. But sadly, once you go up in the rev range, there's not a whole lot of tone to it. It's just really flat. And of course that's probably due to all the Euro racks and stuff. But yeah, especially on a bike like this, which is supposed to be a bit more on the cool side, you know, because it's an adventure scooter. Yeah, it's kind of disappointing. And that leads me into the engine in general. I believe this is just the same engine used in the NC750, just taken straight from that and put into this. And although it's perfectly fine, it's really smooth and refined and pretty economical, and it has good torque. It is a bit soulless, and again, in a machine like this where you're kind of sold on the lifestyle of being a bit different with an adventure scooter, it just doesn't really fit the character of the bike, I feel. So yeah, the exhaust and the engine, those are actually the only two fundamental problems I have. Of course, the exhaust you can change, and that would open up some more character from the engine, but I don't know how this bike sounds with a different pipe, so I guess I have to ride one with the aftermarket exhaust. Another thing which isn't as major, but it is a bit of a niggle, is this screen. So it is pretty easy to read, but there's just a lot going on. Like, if you look on here, you have all your riding mode stuff, you have your gear. The font is also pretty small, so it's also a bit hard to read. I would prefer to have a more minimal display. Again, not the biggest gripe, because it does what it's supposed to do and it's fine, but yeah, something I would personally like to see differently. Moving on to the seat. So in the same spirit as a normal adventure bike, the seat is actually pretty tall, in combination with the fact that the body is quite wide. I'm 185 centimeters, or about 6 foot 1. And I mean, it's perfectly manageable, but I think if you're on the shorter side, you will be surprised about how tall this thing feels. And adding to the seat discussion, my helmet actually doesn't... Oh, there's the fuel filler cap. My helmet personally, there's a lot of stuff in here, don't worry about that. It doesn't fit under here. I do have a pretty large helmet. This is an extra large Shoei, fitted to be my size. So maybe if you're wearing a smaller helmet without an adventure peak, it will probably fit in there, because I've seen people online telling that their helmets do fit in there. And then the last thing, which is kind of the main point of this video, is the price of this bike. So over here in Holland it's 15,000 euros, which is a lot of money in any way, in any sense, no matter how you spend it on a car, on a bike, on a scooter or whatever. But especially considering the fact that it's kind of a practical vehicle, 15,000 euros I think is quite a bit of money. And I'll touch on this later on in the video in my conclusion, because there is a lot more nuance to it. It's not just overpriced or anything. So now let's hop on, go for a ride, and I'll tell you all the things I do like about this X-ADV. Right, so the first thing to know about this Honda X-ADV is that these low speed maneuvers, low speed balance is absolutely amazing, which is of course really beneficial for a scooter. The turning radius is really good. There's a lot of steering sweep. You've got this nice and big fat handlebar, so you got a lot of leverage. And all of that just adds to a really easy to ride sense, especially around town, so with the low speed stuff. But then, once you do find yourself on the twisty road like this, and sadly it is still wet because it's been raining the past few hours, a really surprising thing about this X-ADV, and I think the part where it surprised me most, is how much fun it is to throw around a set of corners. And then especially tight, bumpy, gravelly, plant-ridden, cow poop-ridden back lanes. This thing handles basically like a scooter supermoto sort of blend, and it actually reminds me of my Tenere 700, wherein it's really easy to attack difficult conditions because the suspension is really solid, it works really well. The brakes are excellent. So yeah, there's definitely been a lot of thought put into this bike and premium componentry, as you might expect from a 50,000 euro scooter. Okay, so again, let's test the low speed handling here by turning around because I want to do this twisties again. Ooh. A little foot on the floor, but almost in one try. So yeah, another unique thing about this bike I actually didn't know is the fact that this thing has rear sets. Yeah, it has rear sets. So foot pegs like you would expect to see on a normal motorcycle. And that's amazing to me because it really gives you something to hold on to when you're going around these corners. And that just adds to the sense of the feeling that this is just a full-size like adventure motorcycle or like a big supermoto. And to be honest, I've been only riding it on the pegs from the moment I knew they existed. So yeah, as you can hear, well, as you can probably hear, the exhaust noise isn't the best. It's at lower RPMs it does have some nice bark, but as you get up in the higher RPMs, there's just no tone to it at all. So I would definitely be interested to see how this bike rides with a slip-on. So moving on, I think this bike is actually amazing to look at, both styling wise and finishing wise. So one of the main reasons I actually wanted to ride this particular model is it just looks really cool. Like there's nothing else like this. And that fancy scooter might sound like a weird combination, but it does look like really rugged and yeah, I don't know, it just looks really nice to me. Adding to that, of course, because this is like a flagship model in the lineup, being the most expensive scooter you can buy at the moment, the fit and finish is just as amazing as you would expect from Honda. Everything is just really nicely thought out, everything is really nicely laid out. It's just really beautiful. And again, you would expect it for this price and you would expect it from Honda, but it's just nice to see that the paint looks really nice, all the buttons are really solid feeling. And that kind of brings me to the overall vibe of this bike. So I'm a big fan of considering how a bike makes you feel. That's the most important thing to me. And the fact that this thing is so easy to ride because of the commanding riding position, the excellent low speed balance. Hold on, let's do this guy. See, it's got some nice pull. It's not fast, but it's got some nice pull. Yeah, it just makes you feel really cool. It looks nice. I mean, the sound could be better, the engine could be better. But in general, it just makes you feel like a bit of a cool guy. And I don't know how many people think cool when you're thinking of scooters. I mean, over here in Holland, there's a big culture around scooters. And I wouldn't say the coolest thing, but there's definitely a certain crowd that's drawn to them. Those of you Dutchies will know who I'm talking about. But yeah, to me, this thing does make me feel cool. And I think there's a lot to be said about that, especially considering, again, the price, the fact that you are paying a bit of a premium. It's nice that you're, not just getting a really practical, economical motorcycle in return, but just also something that makes you feel a bit special. So that being said, let's address the elephant in the room. I'll pull over and let's talk about the price, because there's something interesting about it. So to get back to the question at the beginning of this video, what about the price? Well, the interesting about these bikes is they hold their value really well. So if you look at one of the first models that came out in 2017, you're still paying 9,000 euros at the minimum for it. And if you think about it, it's pretty insane, because as far as I could tell, these things retailed for about 11,000 euros over here in Holland. And yeah, just think about it. You ride a bike for 7 years and it only loses 2,000 euros in value. So on the one hand, you don't really have any used bargains out there. So the barrier to entry is always quite high. But on the other hand, you do know that if you do buy one of these bikes, you're not going to lose a ton of money. So yeah, it is a lot of money for just a scooter. But I do feel like this X-ADV, it delivers in pretty much every way you would expect. It makes you feel special. It's a little bit different. It's pretty economical. With the only real drawback being the rather uninspiring engine and exhaust note. Of course, the exhaust you can change. I would definitely love to try one out with a different exhaust. But yeah, of course, the engine you're not going to do much about. So That's just one of the things you're gonna have to try for yourself and see if it's a deal breaker for me. To me, it's not. I mean, like I said, it could be better, and I would love one of these with an MTL7 engine, but it is what it is. So if you have enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao!